Soyez les bienvenus, chers téléspectateurs, dans l'interview d'Africa 24 qui reçoit M. Rasheed OLAOLUWA, le directeur général de la Bank of Industry, une banque très connue du secteur public au Nigeria. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Mary-Angel.
So we'll talk about Bank of Industry, of course, about yourself, and we'll start with the first question that you will have to read out loud, please.
Okay. This one?
Yes.
What's the Bank of Industry planning to do to encourage SMEs in 2015?
Yes.
Okay. A lot. One of the things we found out last year was that the reason SMEs don't do well is because there are a number of factors outside of their control. Okay, so what BOI is trying to do is to build an ecosystem, a support ecosystem that will ensure that when SMEs get loans, they are supported and they're able to do their business successfully and able to repay. Even from the point of applying for a facility from Bank of Industry, we realized that many of the loan applications are substandard. So what did we do? We appointed what we call business development service providers. These are people who are professionals, who have had experience, writing business plans, who can work with the SMEs to ensure that by the time the loan applications get to the Bank of Industry, the applications are bankable. We've gone into an agreement with our 10 banks that are SME friendly, such that when BOI provides the long-term plant and equipment facility, those banks will also provide working capital facility. And we've
like EcoBank, for example.
Like
right?
EcoBank is one of the banks, and 9 other banks. So these are some of the things we are doing to ensure that, we can create an ecosystem that supports the SMEs.
Next question, please.
Okay, next question. So you're talking about steps to be taken to improve service delivery. Yes, we realized, even internally that there's a lot of room for improvement in our service delivery. So last year, for the first time in the history of the bank, we established a customer service department.
Okay.
Okay. And there has been a lot of sensitization of everybody, all staff.
After you came?
After I came,
okay.
Yeah.
So you decided it?
Yeah, I decided. Okay. We decided amongst my colleagues that there's a need. The feedback we're getting is that we can do much better in service delivery. And so we set up that department, and they've started, creating an awareness. We also had a seminar on customer service delivery. What are the bottlenecks? The idea is to identify what are the things that cause delays. Yes. So we're also trying to reform our credit process, because our primary activity is lending. We're looking at our credit process. We want to automate as much as possible. So we're also upgrading our computer banking application. So a lot of things are happening.
Isn't that late?
Yeah, but I just came on board, so I met a situation that required that certain urgent steps be taken, and that's what we are doing. So I agree with you. It should have happened maybe even 5-10 years ago. But
so your predecessor didn't do their job.
Well, I didn't say that, but but we have to deal with what the challenge we meet on the ground.
Do you still think that you're the leading capital provider for the SMEs?
We are the leading development bank in Nigeria.
You are being challenged by other banks.
Amongst the development banks, we're the leading bank. Even among the commercial banks, we have a competitive edge. First, in terms of our pricing, and also because we give long tenors. No bank can match us.
Nobody can compete with you?
No, on those two scores, nobody.
When I asked people in Lagos, for example, about Bank of Industry, they weren't as excited as you are. Why?
Well, I don't know how many people Lagos population is about 18 million people.
I didn't interview 18 million people, but a few of them.
So, but actually, we're coming from a point in the past where maybe some of those comments, you can understand the basis for some of those comments. But I'm also looking at what we have done since last year and what I think potentially we'll do going forward. It's not a one-night transformation. It's a long-term transformation, but we see ourselves taking deliberate steps. Every day we take new steps towards that goal.
But for example, now we are in Nigeria. There are elections. Maybe the president that will be elected will change all the plans that you are doing if it's not the same president. What about that?
Yeah, so, you know, the two things. First, if you don't plan, what you are doing in essence is that you are planning to fail. So it's always good to have some kind of plan. Now, again, when you plan, you have scenarios. So we have
what are your scenarios?
We have best case scenarios. We have best case scenarios. We have worst case scenarios along different dimensions. You know, economic scenarios, political scenarios, social, and all that. So we did all those. So I mean, we're talking about a 3-day retreat. Obviously, you don't want me to go through all that. This interview is going to take the whole day. So we believe that the plan we have is based on our base case, and the base case assumes that the economy will continue to grow at an average of 5 to 6% per annum, that will have political stability, that will have continuity in government policies, economic policies in particular, and so on and so forth. So this is what we are based. Now, there are contingency plans in the event that a different scenario plays out. This is how it is done anywhere in the world.
And I have the last question, the joker question before it ends. We'll talk about you. So before being in BOIs, you were Chief Executive Officer of UBA. Capital. Why have you decided to come in the public sector that is so different from the private one?
I just felt that it's a good opportunity to give back. After 27 years in the private sector, it was time to do something in the public sector and make a difference.
You weren't giving back in the private sector, no? Well,
it was essentially about profitability. So, I mean, we did some corporate social responsibility, but I mean, in terms of your whole being about making a difference, making an impact in society, this is a very good platform. I have a term here, and after that term, you know,
you could go back there?
I could still go back, you know. So it's not, the door is not shut where I came from.
Really? But what's really challenging about being here?
If you look at the Nigerian society, you know, jobs, unemployment is a challenge for us, you know, in terms of making sure that our youth population. So that's, for me, being able to engage all that energy.
Is it because of giving back, or because of maybe the advantages that being a CEO of Bank of Industry?
No, not really. I mean, this, my total package as MD of Bank of Industry is less than half of what I was earning.
And you like to talk about Africa.
Yes.
So now that you are at the Bank of Industry, you cannot travel to go to the African countries that you used to go to, to share your experience with those countries.
I led the expansion of UBA into Africa, you know, from 1 country to 19 countries. And I visited many countries, you know, Francophone, Anglophone.
More than 30, I heard.
Yeah, I've been to about 32 countries. Yeah, so I developed a passion for Africa, you know. So I'm always talking about Africa, and I've learned a lot about Africa, especially the socio-economic evolution of Africa, pre-independence and also post-independence. And some of the things I learned make me unhappy. They're not acceptable from my point of view, and I think our political leaders, you know, have their work cut out for them. For instance,
what, for example?
For instance, in the Francophone Africa, I realized that the countries are not truly independent.
Really?
In the sense in which the Anglophone African countries are independent of Britain.
But these are different histories, and Great Britain didn't do the same like France did in Africa.
Yeah, so a situation where you have a French national on your national board of central bank who has a veto power, you're not truly independent.
Some people in Africa, for example, fought more for the independence than Nigeria did.
In which you keep 65% of your foreign reserve in the French treasury, that's not independent. I'm in some politically sensitive territory, but I'm an African, and anything that has to do with Africa.
But what is Nigeria doing to help these other African countries to become more independent?
For someone to help you, you need to ask for help.
Really?
And you need to be prepared to be helped. But, you know, I think the Francophone African countries also need to change their perspective about Nigeria and Nigerians. You know, what I see, I mean, from my experience, you know, running UBA Africa, there is a lot of phobia about Nigeria. You know, they think, oh, you know, Nigerians are too aggressive, or 419, you know, and all those. So there are maybe a few bad eggs, but there are millions of Nigerians who are doing genuine businesses, you know, who can really create value. And there are a lot of Nigerians, even in those Francophone African countries, who are doing business today.
We invite you to do this in the French-speaking countries.
Sure.
Thank you so much for having us here, Rasheed OLAOLUWA. You are
my pleasure.
Managing Director, CEO of Bank of Industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Merci à vous, chers téléspectateurs. C'était l'interview d'Africa 24. À bientôt.